Hello dear students and viewers. Welcome to my channel English Literature Today. In this video, we are going to discuss the celebrated poet Kamala Das and her Poetics of Protest. Kamala Das is possibly the most discussed and controversial among the women poets of post-independence India, chiefly because of the frank depiction of love and sex in her poems. Critics such as K. Srinivas Iyengar and M.K. Naik have highlighted her boldness and promiscuity while assessing her poems, whereas others like Sri Kumar Verma and A.N. Dwivedi have congratulated her breaking away the fetters of tradition. Much like Mary Wollstonecraft, she scandalized the reading public, not just with her poems, but also her candid admissions of living unconventionally in her autobiography, My Story. Born in an illustrious family of literateurs and parents who were poets themselves, Kamala Das naturally inherited an intense poetic sensibility and a natural eloquence which established her as a writer and a poet from an early age. Married to K. Madhav Das, an official with the Reserve Bank of India, when she was only 15, she was motivated by her husband in her writing interests. Kamala Das wrote in 3 languages, primarily in Malayalam and English, and in Tamil as well. Though she wrote fictional as well as non-fictional prose on a wide range of topics including women's issues, child care and even politics, she was most comfortable in poetry. Das published about 210 poems in 6 volumes in her lifetime, and these are Summer in Calcutta, The Descendants, The Old Playhouse and Other Poems, Collected Poems Volume 1, Only the Soul Knows How to Sing, and Encountering Kamala, and along with Pritish Nandi, a collection of poems entitled Tonight This Savage Rite. She adopted the name Kamala Suraya after she embraced Islam. Her writings in Tamil, especially her short stories, have appeared in her pen name Madhavi Kutti. Besides receiving a number of national and international accolades, including Sahitya Academy Award in 1985, the Asian Pen Award in 1964 and the Asian Poetry Prize in 1998, Kamala Das was nominated and shortlisted for the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1984. She, however, did not win the award. Kamala Das passed away on 31st May 2009 in Pune at the age of 75, a few years after she embraced Islam. Her Poetics of Protest stemmed from her witnessing and suffering different forms of socio-cultural marginalization. Her early school days in the 1940s Kolkata exposed her to the strong racial hatred with which the colonial authorities treated the Indians. Her adolescent years spent at the old Nalapat house in Kerala made her aware of the thousands of undocumented crimes against women, which patriarchal society not only condones but also promotes and propagates in the name of purity, chastity, and honor. The compulsory heterosexuality and unprepared for pregnancy that her hasty marriage to K. Madhav Das imposed upon her further opened Das's eyes to the subtle ploys of patriarchy. But the chiefest challenge she faced was when she decided to pursue her writing career. Ente Katha or My Story is her daring autobiography which she wrote when she was only 42 years old. However, at a later time in her life, she said that it contained some fictional elements as well. Kamala Das wrote about human desires, love, lust, betrayal, and the consequent pain and anguish. But the way in which she wrote about all these issues, breaking the conventional conservatism, is what made her famous. Her frank depiction of sexuality and articulation of her personal experience, her liaisons with a number of men other than her husband, earned her comparisons with Margaret Duras and Sylvia Plath, two famous poets, and also an infamy that she carried all through her life till her death in 2009. It is for her uninhibited boldness in asserting her womanhood that Kamala Das is considered as the first feminist poet of India. Her métier lies in vocalizing those million muted voices which the patriarchal society does not want to hear nor accept as legitimate. She talks about the patriarchal restrictions, religious and communal fanaticism, colonialism, capitalism, and terrorism. The poem which we are now going to focus on is An Introduction, a poem that has been documented many times in the syllabi of Indian writing in English, not just in India but also abroad. The poem is a formal presentation of oneself because that is what an introduction literally means. This is a poem about identity, and in this poem, Kamala Das lays bare her own experience of being a woman, a dark-skinned Indian woman, a woman poet, and an Indian woman poet writing in English. Structurally, an introduction can be divided into 5 distinct sections, about which we are going to discuss in detail later. The rejection of political identity of the I narrator in the poem, however, is not an ignorance but her awareness of the highly politicized nature of human existence. Women, both individually and collectively, are excluded from the centers of power and can only repeat the names of those in power. All of us know that obsessive repetition is a kind of satiric comment or a subversive attempt to show the extent of compulsory indoctrination. Let us now read the first section of the poem. The poem begins, and I quote, "I don't know politics, but I know the names of those in power, and can repeat them like days of week or names of months, beginning with Nehru. I am Indian, very brown, born in Malabar. I speak 3 languages, write in 2, dream in 1. The first section, dear students and viewers, captures the poet's satiric take on politics as an exclusively male domain. The lines might appear to be a very naive proclamation of the poet speaker's apparent lack of knowledge of political affairs, but is actually a strategy to draw attention to the fact that she is aware of the extremely politicized nature of modern human existence. By juxtaposing the names of the days of the week and the names of months with the list of politicians she knows, beginning with Nehru, the most famous politician of the time, she accomplishes 2 targets. First, she breaks the patriarchal exclusivity of politics by placing it with 2 very common terms, days and months, and secondly, by showing her acquaintance with powerful people. Let us now move to the second section, and we read, "I am Indian, very brown, born in Malabar. I speak 3 languages, write in 2, dream in 1. Don't write in English, they said. English is not your mother tongue. Why not leave me alone, critics, friends, visiting cousins, every one of you? Why not let me speak in any language I like? The language I speak becomes mine. Its distortions, its queernesses, all mine, mine alone. It is half English, half Indian, funny perhaps, but it is honest. It is as human as I am human, don't you see? It voices my joys, my longings, my hopes, and it is useful to me as cawing is to crows or roaring to the lions. It is human speech, the speech of the mind that is here and not there, a mind that sees and hears and is aware, not the deaf, blind speech of trees in storm, or of monsoon clouds, or of rain, or the incoherent mutterings of the blazing funeral pyre. This second section, dear friends and viewers, presents Kamala Das's sharp rejoinder to her critics about her fondness for the English language. The need to express oneself has an honest urgency that makes the half English, half Indian language anything but funny and rather more human. Many of us here will identify this strain of half English and half Indian as the language which we speak ourselves. And yet, one's organic and human need to express oneself in a language which she or he finds naturally convenient is as simple as cawing is to crows, a repudiation that justifies both her act of writing and her choice of language. The third section. It reads, and I quote, I was child, and later they told me I grew, for I became tall. My limbs swelled, and one or two places sprouted hair. When I asked for love, not knowing what else to ask, I shrank pitifully, for he drew a youth of 16 into the bedroom and closed the door. He did not beat me, but my sad woman body felt so beaten. The weight of my breasts and womb crushed me. This is the section that narrates her experiences of the ways of patriarchy. The poet recounts her growth from a gender-neutral childhood into a gendered femininity. And here, my dear friends and viewers, you will notice that this growth was more and through an external agency. Look at the pronoun they, which is there in the first sentence of the third section which we just read. The poet's growth was largely physical and quite abrupt, but her social conditioning as a woman was mediated by an unfortunate sexual encounter and by society almost consequent upon her marriage. The fourth section, and I quote, Then I wore a shirt and my brother's trousers, cut my hair short, and ignored my womanliness. Dress in saris, be girl, be wife, they said. Be embroiderer, be cook, be a quarreler with servants. Fit in. Oh, belong, cried the categorizers. Don't sit on walls or peep in through our lace-draped windows. Be Amy or be Kamala, or better still, be Madhavikutty. It is time to choose a name, a role. Don't play pretending games. Don't play at schizophrenia or be a nympho. Don't cry embarrassingly loud when jilted in love. I met a man, loved him. Call him not by any name. He is every man who wants a woman, just as I am every woman who seeks love. In him, the hungry haste of rivers. In me, the ocean's tireless waiting. Who are you? I ask each and every one. The answer is, it is I. Unquote. The fourth section records Das's desperate attempts as resisting the constrictive pulls of society. As the woman cannot change her body, the poet tries to disguise herself like a man and evade cultural and familiar constrictions. You will note, my dear students and viewers, the way she establishes how she wore a shirt and her brother's trousers and how she cut her hair as if to defy what femininity had imposed upon her. But this act created a huge furor, and all the social critiques came down upon her in hordes and clamored around her, asking her to dress in saris, to fit in, to belong, to be Amy or be Kamala or be Madhavi Kutti, which literally means the wife of Madhav. All the categories a woman is asked to fit in are male dependent. Yet, even in the clamoring for love, the woman has to depend on the whims of the man, and an honest admission on her part is labeled defiant or socially subversive. We move to the fifth and final section of the poem, and I quote, "Anywhere and everywhere, I see the one who calls himself I in this world. He is tightly packed like the sword in its sheath. It is I who drink lonely drinks at 12 midnight in hotels of strange towns. It is I who laugh, it is I who make love, and then feel shame. It is I who lie dying with a rattle in my throat. I am sinner, I am saint. I am the beloved and the betrayed. I have no joys that are not yours, no aches which are not yours. I too call myself I." Unquote. This section traces Das's responses to the hegemonic gender performances and her hopes for an equitable social order. The last part of the last sentence, "I too call myself I," quote unquote, is a plea for gender equality. The sinner-saint conundrum stated is a typically feminine one, as men do not need to comply by the social strictures they create. The safety and security of the sheath of patriarchy strangely confronts the loneliness and guilt of the suffering or the erring woman. In fine, let us read a few of what critics have to say about her. K. Sachidanandan, noted poet and critic, says, "An introduction is a polyphonic text with several of the poet's voices seeking articulation in a single verbal construct." Ramakundu, another critic, feels, "The I in the introductory line rejects a political identity, that the poem is about identity itself. The poem upholds the poet's personal experiences, not just as a woman, but as an Indian woman who is dark-skinned, who writes about herself in English, and as a woman who is honest enough to speak about her body, her selfhood, her physical cravings, and her lust for love." In her own words, "Ask me why life is short and love is shorter still. Ask me what bliss is and what its price is." Kamala Das introduced readers to a kind of poetry where the woman persona relinquished the contentment offered by a traditional, albeit sterile aestheticism, where women poets were expected to write about fantasies of eternal, purely spiritual, and unrequited love. She claimed that her poems articulate the muted whisper at the core of womanhood and the endless female hunger, and she became quite a rage with her poetry. Dear friends and viewers, if this video has been beneficial to your understanding of Kamala Das and particularly her poem An Introduction, do like and subscribe to my channel English Literature Today, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Good luck!